Hi and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave and this is episode 1182B, and today's date is January 19th, 2017, and the title of the episode is Government Officials Report that North Korea is about to do something on Inauguration Day. Now, before I get started, I just want to make an announcement. I uploaded an interview with Joseph Meyer. It is on the X22 Report Spotlight YouTube channel. So all you need to do is go over to YouTube, type in X22 Report Spotlight. It will bring you to the video. Or you can come over to the X22Report.com site, scroll down a little bit, look over to your right-hand side. You'll see the video there, and you can play it on the site. Or you can go to NewsSentinel.com. Same thing, scroll down a little bit, look over to your right-hand side, and you can play the video there. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, yesterday, we reported that Obama granted clemency to Chelsea Manning. Now, Assange tweeted out that, listen, if the administration grants clemency to Chelsea Manning, Julian Assange, well, he would turn himself in. And after January 12th tweet from WikiLeaks saying that Assange would agree to be extradited to the U.S. if Obama did do this. Well, Assange is saying, well, the deal is off right now because the administration didn't live up to the agreement. And what Assange really wanted, he wanted Chelsea Manning to be released immediately. Instead, Chelsea Manning will be released in May, well short of what he sought. So Assange's lawyer is out there saying that the deal is off and he will not be turning himself in. But Assange is still happy to come to the U.S. on the condition that all his rights are guaranteed. Aren't his rights guaranteed no matter what? He's born with them. They can't take them away. And the statement from Julian Assange says, I welcome President Obama's decision to commute the sentence of Miss Chelsea Manning from 35 years to time served, but Miss Manning should never have been convicted in the first place. Miss Manning is a hero whose bravery should have been applauded, not condemned. Journalists, publishers, and their sources serve the public interest and promote democracy by distributing authentic information on key matters such as human rights abuses, illegal acts by the government officials. They should not be prosecuted. In order for democracy and the rule of law to thrive, the government should immediately end its war on whistleblowers and publishers such as WikiLeaks and myself. And we can see right now, Assange most likely will not be visiting the U.S. probably any time in the near future at this point. We see that Obama, he has given the UN a gift of $500 million. And where does this money go? We really don't know. It's for global warming. But it's very interesting in the timing that Obama decided to give this money to the UN. Because Trump is out there and he says that global warming is a hoax. And we can see that Obama decided to give the money right before his term is up. And to date, he has given the UN $1 billion. And we can see from John Kirby, the State Department spokesman, said there was no nefarious desire or intent behind the timing. It's not being done to try to provoke a reaction from the incoming administration or to try to dictate to them one way or the other how they are going to deal with the climate issues. Well, it's just very odd that the timing was days before the new administration comes in, because most likely Trump would have stopped those funds from going to the UN. Now, the Ukrainian parliament, they have now adopted a law allowing the admission of foreign troops to conduct exercises on the Ukrainian territory in the year of 2017. So the drills in their country are going to be the Sea Breeze 2017, Rapid Trident 2017 exercises, and there's going to be foreign troops inside of Ukraine taking part of all these drills. And we can see why this has been done. Think about what the U.S. and NATO have been doing. They've been moving assets, they've been moving troops to all the different areas, the Baltic states, they've been moving them to the borders of Russia. Ukraine, they want included in this, and the only way to do this is to vote in foreign troops, and now they can bring in the foreign troops and have these drills. Because I still believe that these elite, they are ramping everything up, positioning everything for a major war. Now, the UN confirms that Iran's compliance with the nuclear deal, well, they have met everything they needed to meet, and they are in complete compliance. And of course, the United States government central bankers, those who don't like the deal, they're looking at it and they're continually using propaganda to say that they're not living up to their end of the bargain. Now, we have to understand and look at the situation of why this deal was made. And if you really look at it from an outside viewpoint, most of the countries that the U.S. goes in and has regime change, they don't want these countries having nuclear weapons. And I think what they were worried about was Iran actually developing a nuclear weapon. And this allowed them to keep an eye on Iran and to make sure that they didn't develop a nuclear weapon. Because remember, their plan was to go into Syria, replace Assad, and then eventually go into Iran. Now, if they had a nuclear weapon, I don't believe they were going to invade. But this deal was to stop them. Now, was this the only part of their agenda? No. The other part was to hopefully get their oil on the petrodollar. And Iran didn't stick to that deal. They decided to use the euro instead, and in the future move towards the yuan or the ruble. But they didn't care about that right off the bat because they knew eventually they were going to try to get into Iran. But all these plans are starting to fall apart. We see U.S. B-2 bombers. They went into Libya and they hit targets inside of Libya, and they killed many individuals, and they said they were going after the Islamic State. Now, this is very interesting because when we think back of when the U.S. invaded Libya, Lebanon, Yemen, Sudan, Iraq, they called those individuals who were opposed to the new puppet government Al-Qaeda, and they would go in, they would bomb those individuals with drones. Today, they call them the Islamic State. All those opposing the new UN-backed government, they are called the Islamic State. And this is who they're really bombing. And if you notice, the bombing takes place on the shoreline where they have all the oil pumping areas, the ports. They want that whole area cleared. That's what they really care about. And what we're seeing right now is that the Libyan general, he is in negotiations right now, Khalifa Haftar, with Russia, and they're negotiating billions worth of arms and energy deals with Russia. And remember, there is a battle going on right now between the UN-backed government and the opposition governments. And there's more than one. And these are the governments of the people. And again, there is a battle going on right now. And what the U.S. is doing is they're trying to push back those opposition groups, keep them away from the ports, keep them away from the oil, keep them away from the oil fields. That's why the battles always revolve around that area. And they're really not hitting the Islamic State. Yes, the propaganda on the news, that's what they're telling you. Just like they told you they were hitting Al-Qaeda in all the other countries. No, they were hitting all those individuals that didn't want the puppet government in power. That's why you always heard civilians getting hit, because it was always civilians getting hit, because they are the opposition. Now, U.S. officials have revealed that they have put together a sizable Arab force to start this major offensive in Raqqa. They're saying that they have now counted as many as 23,000 men in northern Syria who identified themselves as Arab. And the reason why they're saying this at this point is because there were problems before, because most of the paid mercenaries, well, they weren't Syrian. If you notice, they're using the word Arab, not Syrian, and they're trying to get around this right now. But it looks like what they're doing is they're getting ready to move and have a major offensive in Raqqa. And the offensive is going to start very soon because the cooperation between Turkey and the U.S., that's deteriorating. The other reason why they're pushing this so hard and trying to get this done is because the peace talks in Astana, well, they're going to be happening, and they're going to be talking about peace. And at the same time, we see the Islamic State is mounting a major offensive in Deir ez-Zor. We see that the U.S. is mounting a major offensive in Raqqa. At the same time, there's peace negotiations going on. And all of this, most likely, is to disrupt the peace negotiations. They don't want the peace negotiations. They are still pushing towards their goal. They want Assad out. They want to go into Iran. They haven't given up, people. They're still pushing their goal. Now, something I find very interesting, and it's happening in England, it's happening in Ukraine, it's happening here in the US, it's happening in Eastern Europe. And what I'm talking about is the propaganda about Russia. How war is coming. The Telegraph, 12/31/16. Systemic, relentless, predatory Russia cyber threats to U.S. power grid exposed as malware found on major electricity company computer. The Independent, 12/13/16. Highly probable Russia interfered with the Brexit referendum. 1:15/17. The Express. Russians forcing RAF to abort mission in Syria by hacking into their systems. The Guardian, 1/14/17. Senior British politicians targeted by Kremlin for smear campaigns. The Ukrainian president. World must unite to fight Russia. We need a global alliance to confront the Russian military. Here in the United States, in the corporate media, Business Insider, how World War III is going to begin. And it's going to begin in Latvia, the Baltic states. And they're saying after Russia invaded Ukraine, they're going to move their forces in a different direction. This is actually the story. And they're saying the Baltic states are next. And they're saying that Putin is not just going to invade with troops. No, that would be too obvious. Instead, Putin will instigate an ambiguous militarized crisis using deniable proxies, like the United States does, probably in the next year or two. So coming up very soon. Perhaps Russian-speaking Latvians or Estonians will begin rioting, protesting their rights, claiming to be persecuted, asking for international protection. A suspiciously well-armed and well-trained Popular Front for the Liberation of the Russian Baltics will appear. A few high-profile assassinations and bombings bring the Baltics to the edge of civil war, which will then lead into world war. And you can see right now that the elite, they're telegraphing what they're going to do. Now, the question is, why would Russia do this? First of all, the beginning of the story is completely fake. Russia didn't invade anything. There were no troops that were brought into the country. They didn't bring in tanks. If they did, believe me, the U.S., their satellites would have picked them up right away. It would have been all over the place. NATO had planes all over the place watching the situation. The U.S. had planes watching the situation. Satellites were focused on the entire area, and this was not happening. Actually, what happened in Ukraine was the U.S. went in there because the elected leader was going towards Russia instead of the EU. And the U.S., well, they wanted Ukraine. They wanted the Baltic Sea. They wanted Crimea. They wanted the southeastern area. They wanted the natural gas pipelines. It was a strategic location. And they spent $5 billion to have a coup d'etat. And what they're saying by the invasion is that Crimea had a vote, and they voted to separate themselves from Ukraine and go along with Russia. The southeastern people, well, they decided they don't want to be a part of Ukraine after the coup d'etat. And this is why we have this war going on inside of Ukraine. So Russia didn't invade and do anything to Ukraine, because really, think about what happened. As soon as Poroshenko came into power, John Kerry and Biden came in, and Biden put his son on the board of directors of the gas company in there, and John Kerry put his roommate on the board of directors. How convenient. And if Russia was really invading, they could have gone all the way to Kiev and taken over the entire country. They didn't. Actually, there was a time where the southeastern area was moving so quickly through Ukraine that they actually stopped themselves. And I'm talking about the southeastern people. And Russia implemented Minsk I, which failed, implemented Minsk II, which we're in right now, but the U.S. didn't implement any peace deal. Why would they implement a peace deal if they're invading a country? They had the upper hand. So what they're saying makes no sense. What they're telling us right now, they're telling us how they're going to start the war. And this is why we see the propaganda out there about Russia aggression, about Russia did this, Russia did that. It's a buildup to what is about to happen. Now we see that the inauguration is one day away, and we know there are different groups out there that are going to try to cause disruptions, disrupt J20, the DC Anti-Fascist Coalition. They all plan to paralyze the city. And we can see right now that because of Project Veritas, disrupt J20, they said, okay, we're going to scale back and we're not going to really do anything. Doesn't mean they're not going to. It just means that they were found out and maybe they're reorganizing and trying something different. But we have to remember, there's 28,000 security personnel and miles of fencing, roadblocks, fortified by sand-laden dump trucks and other heavy equipment. But we know what they want to do. They want to rile up the crowd. There's going to be about 900,000 plus people there. They're saying there's going to be about 250,000 protesters, but we'll have to wait and see. We're also going to see the Bikers for Trump. And this group vows to go toe-to-toe with anyone that is going to break through any police barriers and try to cause problems. Now, what's very interesting about all of this is that government officials have come out and they said that North Korea is getting ready to launch another missile, and most likely it's going to happen on Inauguration Day. Now remember, the U.S. placed the X-band C radar system in South Korea to monitor what North Korea is doing. And they also said if a missile launch poses a threat to the United States, they will collect intel, and if it is a threat, they will shoot it down. So they're looking at the situation and they're saying, yes, separate satellite images suggest North Korea. Well, it looks like they're getting ready to launch something during the inauguration. Now, to me, this sounds like a complete setup. It seems like they're putting out the propaganda. Maybe North Korea will launch something, or maybe the U.S. will make it look like North Korea really launched something and it comes from South Korea. The X-band picks it up and they say North Korea just launched a missile. It is a threat heading to the United States to box Trump into a war. And of course, during the inauguration, he's very busy doing other things. He'll just get the story. And the inauguration, maybe it'll be called off because of this. We don't know. But it's a very strange thing to put out there at this point in time. And of course, the sources are anonymous and they don't know for sure that this is really going to happen. But they're putting the story out there to try to convince everyone that these things are happening. Because you have to remember, the elite, they haven't given up on their plans. They don't want Trump in office. And we can see that they're setting him up for a war. I think we would have gone to war if it was Clinton in office, but it would just happen in a different way. I mean, she would have gone along with everything that they're saying. Yes, there was Russian hacking. Yes, Russia is attacking. We must go to war. Couple false flags. to prove that, yes, Russia is doing this, and we'd be off to war and everything would be happening. Now we have Trump, who is actually speaking to Putin and saying, let's talk instead of going to war. The elite don't like this. They want the war. This entire economy, the economic system, well, we're at the end game right now. I mean, look, the government just came out and told us that they manipulated the student loan numbers. Think about what the government has done over the years. How many lies, how many manipulations. You can't believe anything that they're saying. And if they're telling you the economy is strong right now, they're telling you that we're down to 4.7% unemployment, that GDP is fantastic, retail is great, you know it's a lie. They lied back in 2008. They lied in 1929. They continually lie each time they get a chance. And if they lied in the past, why would we believe them now in anything that they say? The head of the head of the intelligence agency was in front of Congress, and Congress said, "Are you spying on the people?" He lied. And of course he was found out. Then he had to tell the truth and apologize. Obama said the Affordable Care Act was going to be affordable. Is it? Yeah, maybe to a very tiny small group who's getting subsidized by the government. Well, what about the rest of the people, the millions and millions of others? So we can see right now, the government, those in power, the elite, they're on a different agenda than the actual people of the country. Their agenda is profit, control, war, reducing the population, keeping control after the war, making governments borrow from the central bank, restarting the entire system all over again. That's their agenda, making themselves very wealthy, collecting assets as they continually print or create fake currency and hand it out to the people and make them believe that this is the real currency. You have to remember, they just push a button and it's just created. And it's created from a private company. Their product is debt. And they have a stranglehold on the entire world, except for Russia, the BRIC nations, and they want to keep their control. Right now, it's a battle between two different systems, and they don't want to give that control up. They rather go to war than give up control. And that's what they're pushing right now. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.